Welcome to 12.5 Minutes. My name is Jared Kelly, and I am with my friend and co-host Liz Whitehead.
Hi, Jared.
Hi, Liz. This is a fantastic day. I'm excited. I'm excited because you have another excellent reference for us when it comes down to all the fantastic founders and business owners that we get a chance to meet through this platform. And I want you to give us a little bit of idea of who we're going to meet today.
So we're going to meet Julye Williams today, who I have met before. And I actually saw her give a presentation on the changing demographics within the US. And what she's going to bring us is something you love, which is data. You love data. And she's also going to bring us what we need to do about it. So I'm excited to talk to Julye today.
Excellent. Well, Julye Williams, please come in. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the show. We are excited to hear from you today. So let's get this started. I understand that you founded the Project 2043 Institute. Is that right?
That's right.
Excellent. My memory is not terrible. Tell us, why was it important? Why was it important to start this institute?
Sure. Well, it's a pleasure to be here with you all today in 12 and a half minutes. So the Project 2043 Institute, I founded it really after two things. One, I saw the Census Bureau's projection many years ago that in the year 2043, the majority of people living in the US would identify as a person of color. Now, when I saw that, it first was, made me think, but then also at that time, I was leading an elementary school in Newark, New Jersey. And I remember looking at my kindergartners at the time and really thinking about, well, what would the future look like for them when they are adults, when they live in a society where there is no racial group in the majority? Would historical inequities continue to persist, or would our society have changed in ways that are much more inclusive and equitable for them in the rest of their lives?
That's amazing. And I think you're going to get there, but that sounds a little bit like magic that it would just change. So I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are.
Oh yeah, it would be magic, waving the wand, so to speak. So a lot of work happened, I think, from my realization, from hearing that data point and from looking around at where I was to thinking about, well, what could I do to help create a more inclusive space? And what I started to do, I was already working in schools in Newark and started to work with schools in Camden, New Jersey as well. And when I moved to DC, I started to do a lot more work and helping organizations, specifically schools, create more inclusive spaces. And it wasn't too long after that where I noticed, it's not just schools that need support in creating more inclusive spaces. It's organizations of all types. And so that is why ultimately I ended up establishing the Project 2043 Institute as a place where we could provide the support and services as well as information to organizations that have that as their goal.
That's excellent. It's also impressive because I'm confident. I don't know that much about America, wink. But I do know that some people are uncomfortable with that type of change. And I also think that there are probably businesses just as much as there are municipalities or governments that probably need this type of introduction. So what do you say to that?
Oh, absolutely. And I think, the reason why, there's so many reasons why people, some people are very comfortable talking about it, and other people are incredibly uncomfortable talking about it. And so I think what we all have to recognize is that, the reality is that our nation is changing. And in order for organizations, for communities, for governments, for businesses to operate at their highest potential, we have to acknowledge, there is some elements, there are historical legacies that have influenced how we approach things. And how can we be more intentional about including people, no matter their race, their, gender identity, their socioeconomic status, a lot of different characteristics about ourselves. How can we actually come together and actually do work that moves everyone forward and moves our organizations forward. I think that's a question, regardless of the organizational structure, people have and are really looking for answers to.
And that's another thing that you provide, right? So it's not only, okay, this is what it is, this is what's happening, but then what's next, right?
Yeah, what do you do? And I think, our focus is really on the present, but also on the future, right? We want organizations and our partners to thrive now, but we also want them to think about, well, what does this mean for you as you move forward? What does this mean for you in terms of sustainability and growth? And I think a great example is the theater industry. We have a number of clients who are in the theater, and theater, for those that may not be familiar, is historically a space dominated by, a white audience, usually an older white audience. And when I talk with my theater clients, they recognize, what they have been doing is not the path to sustainability, right? We've got to be more intentional, and we've got to think about the communities that we're serving, the patrons that we are, engaging, and how can we create these theater spaces or reimagine them in ways that are truly more inclusive, from what you see on the stage to who was in the audience to who was funding them. So that's just one example of, how we can't ignore these shifts in our society as far as our ultimate ability for longevity and to thrive.
Wow. This is important, but it seems pretty complex. Obviously, when you're talking about people and the nuances of what change brings, and sometimes it's easy to accept. Sometimes we just naturally resist change until we understand it or could truly feel it and appreciate it. Um, as you've grown this organization, what type of impact have you seen through, you know, looking at clients and seeing, okay, we started here, but now we've arrived, at least at this point, showing progress towards this change?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, that's one of the beautiful things is when you engage with a client or an organization and you start to see the light bulbs go off and you start to see, oh, I get it. Okay. Things start to make sense. And so one of the things I see, or one of the things that we do, is we always start off, really talking about how we got here. And, I am an adjunct professor at American University. I teach a course on race and racism. And so really helping establish, how did we even get here, right? I often give the analogy of, for a lot of people, talking about race and racism is kind of like coming into a movie and you're 45 minutes late, right? We don't know how it got started. We just know where we are and we can react to the moment we're in, but we don't always know what happened before. And so a lot of times when we have those initial conversations about, well, how did this happen? And just real objective, like, this is just what happened. These are the laws, these are the narratives. We see different types of evidence and, primary sources, secondary sources. And then we can all just say, okay, yeah, this is actually what happened. That, I think, gives people more comfort in being willing to have a conversation, because we're just talking about what happened. And now we can think about, well, what is it that we want to create? And so one of the benefits that I've seen is when we have those, how did we get started questions, being able to see people shift in their willingness to have conversations and their thinking about what solutions might be. So I think that's one of the great impacts that I've seen as I work with companies, over the duration.
That's cool. I like what you said too about they have to know where we came from, because I take that for granted as somebody who's read a lot of history but still doesn't know everything about America. But you can take for granted what other people know or don't know. So that's a really important piece of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of times, even with my students, they'll say, well, we never learned this, or there's a statue of this person in front of our library and we never know the background of that person. So, I think it's very illuminating when you have more context to be able to engage, in a deeper conversation, or just in a more informed way.
So if you have, this is my last question. I'm really thinking like this is big enough where I need to do some more research. So if I need to learn more about your organization, where would I go? And then if our companies or our clients are looking to address these type of concerns, what services would you recommend?
Yeah, so to learn more about us, you can visit us online, project2043.com, or you can, look me up on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to connect with organizations, with leaders, with folks who are interested in this topic. And so for, your question about what to do, our philosophy at Project 2043 is learn, grow, act. And that really is rooted in, personal observations so many times of seeing folks have an interest in something and wanting to just leap in and take an action without really understanding what the context is or what happened or how we even got there. So we start off inviting our clients and those we work with to really learn more about whether it's inclusion or intersectionality or, how to create a more inclusive team. We do a lot of leadership training. So really with starting off learning so that we can grow together and then we can take some really intentional action to make our organizations and teams stronger.
That is awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Julie. This is very enlightening. I definitely am excited to learn more, learn, grow. I need to grow, definitely in my mindset, and I'm ready to act. So thank you for taking the time. It has been truly a pleasure. And we're going to talk about this right now and what Liz learned from this particular session. So thank you, Julie. We will talk to you soon.
Thank you all for having me.
Absolutely.
So this is great because like I said, had seen the presentation before and I thought it was super illuminating. And I love how Julie said, one, it's happening. Like it's like gravity. You can not like it, but it's going to have an impact in your life. And so you need to learn, but you also have to grow and act. There are ways you can be proactive so that you can, as your company moves through these changes and transformations, it can continue to be successful.
I love it. I love it. The one takeaway that I really thought about was like her biggest client is America, the whole nation. So we have some learning and growing and acting to do politically coming up. So we need to understand exactly those dynamics. But this was fantastic. I know you agree. So for our wonderful audience that has joined us, please be sure to comment below. And definitely, if you have questions or you want to follow Julie or any of us, feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn. It's been a pleasure. Until next time, we will see you later. All right, take care. Thank you.